What's up, guys? rhinoCRUNCH here, and I have a very special guest with us today. I have Matt Lightfoot, who is a production assistant on the standalone game DayZ. Matt, thanks for being with us today.
It's a pleasure. Nice to be here.
So if you don't know what DayZ is a multiplayer open-world survival horror mod designed by Dean Hall for the 2009 first-person shooter video game Arma 2 and its 2010 expansion Arma 2 Operation Arrowhead. The mod places a player in the fictional post-Soviet state of Chernobyl, Russia, where an unknown virus has turned the population into zombies. As a survivor with limited supplies, the player must scavenge the world for supplies such as food, water, weapons, and medicine while killing or avoiding both zombies and other players in an effort to survive the apocalypse. So, Matt, my first question, I think the most important question and the first question is, when is the most precise release date we can hear for DayZ Standalone?
December. We've not fixed a date. We're just aiming for December at this moment in time. However, it will almost certainly be before the end of the year. Yeah.
So before Christmas, hopefully, right?
Hopefully so.
That'll be a nice Christmas present. Okay, so my next question is I've heard a lot about the Minecraft model. I played Minecraft early on in alpha, and I remember when I downloaded the game, it said something like you'll never have to pay again. You buy the alpha release now, and you'll have it for life, whatever. So how does this apply to DayZ, since DayZ is a mod of another game?
Well, we're making the game with Bohemia Interactive, who are the guys that made Arma 2. So we're going to be basing our engine off Arma 2 and take on helicopters. So you will essentially be buying DayZ on its own slightly altered engine, which was based on Takeoff Helicopter Arma 2. And we'll be releasing updates like Minecraft after we've released. So as some people know, we'll be distributing it online, and then the updates will be pushed through that. So, like on Steam, where your updates are downloaded automatically, we're going to do something like that.
Okay, so just to clarify, the people who, say, bought Arma 2 with the intention of just playing DayZ, there's not going to be any... is there going to be any benefits for them, or are we just going to have to buy a whole nother version of DayZ?
Well, DayZ Standalone, the problem comes with people that have bought Arma 2. We can't say who's bought it and who's not for DayZ. And we're pricing DayZ to take into account that, some people have already bought Arma 2. So we're aiming to sell it at about £15, €15. So, it's going to be much cheaper than people.
Oh, that's good to hear. That is really good to hear.
As we've always said, our primary aim is to make a really cool game. It's not to take people's money. We just want enough money to eat.
Yeah, and I think, I think the best stuff in life comes from, and this is getting on a whole deeper level, but I think the best stuff in the world comes from people who are passionate about what they do and have no intention of making money from it. They just do it because they love it, and I think that's what maybe makes DayZ so successful, is the fact that it wasn't juiced by some game company to make millions of dollars. It was just a mod that just so happened to be the itch that everybody wanted to scratch, I guess you could say. So that's good news to hear. My next question, without mentioning any names, a few zombie games are trying to capitalize on the success of DayZ. Has this affected your guys' internal deadlines or internal development timeline?
No, it hasn't. We're going to do what we've always done, making something cool, making something creative. If other people want to try and do that, then let them feel free, but we think we can do it better.
Nice. Yeah. And, see, that part of the problem that I have with DayZ Standalone, not that I have a problem with DayZ Standalone, but after playing DayZ for so long, I realized it wasn't just I didn't just love DayZ. I loved Arma 2's engine. I love Arma 2. So a part of me is really excited that there is going to be a DayZ Standalone, but the other part of me is shit, now I have to buy 2 games. Now I have to buy DayZ and Arma 3. I wish it would have been just, some mod thing. But, I mean, that's cool in its own right. So my next question for you is, when did you actually come on board with this project?
Well, it depends on when you class the very start as. I've known Dean for about 6 years now, through an online gaming clan. So he had the idea when he was on a survival exercise, with his time in the New Zealand Army, when he was on like a swap with the Singaporean Defence Force. So I wasn't on the survival course with him, but I was on on the first tests of it, and I've been involved since anyone else has been.
That's awesome. So my next question is, how much has your life changed since the success of DayZ?
95%. Like 5-6 months ago, I was a first year university student in the UK. Now I'm, a production assistant on one of the biggest things to happen to gaming this year. It's quite different and a very steep learning curve.
That's cool. That's cool, though. That's awesome. I think people can appreciate that much more than, some guy who maybe inherited the position or whatever, That's great. So now I want to get into some community questions that we came up with. These are going to be really specific questions about the game that we just can't. I mean, I asked a bunch of people in my community, not only my server members, but subscribers, to come up with questions that we just want to know the answers to. So I'm going to get right into it here. The first thing I want to mention is DayZ logic. Hunting knives can't melee. I can stand in front of a giant lake and be thirsty and can't get a drink. And if I'm killed by a zombie, I don't become a zombie. So, are any of these features, I guess we could call them, are they going to be fixed in the standalone?
We'd like them to be. I think for them all to be fixed on the initial standalone alpha release, that would be unrealistic. However, it's something that we can focus in the updates, because if we were to push out using, something like Steam, then we can change anything we want about the game that we weren't able to do with Arma 2. So we can do whatever we want, whenever we want. The standalone alpha release will be focusing at fixing things that were game-breaking, like we'll be trying to... Well, we're going to be hard-coding it to make it much more difficult for hackers.
Yay!
So yeah, we can really limit people's ability to inject script. Things like that we're able to just do at an engine level rather than have to tackle it reactively, will be the main difference with the initial standalone release. And then things like the DayZ logic and stuff like that we can focus on in the updates in the time afterwards.
So, is there any plans for, maybe like a realistic talent tree, or is that in the future after you guys get the hard coding finished?
Well, that's something, again, like talent trees. We've discussed. We want people to be good. If you're good at something in real life, it'd be cool if you were good at it in game. But it's how we do that. So, like in Arma 2, you can see the stars, which means that if you can read the stars in real life, you're able to read the stars in game. Stuff like that we think is really cool, but it's how we do it. As for talent trees and things, again, that's really a design decision that we've not made. We've discussed it briefly, but it's not something we'd be doing in the release.
Okay. See, we just some of the ideas we came up with, some of the community ideas were, like if some people who like to help, like give blood bags, the more blood bags they give, the more chance they have to not get as sick if it's cold out. People who like to repair, like gearheads who go and find all the vehicles and hoard all the vehicles. If they get really good at repairing vehicles, maybe they're less likely to have a tire blowout if they hit a zombie, or just stuff like that we were looking forward to. But if it's too early in the development timeline, then
sorry, I'm just jumping in, is people have got to kind of acknowledge that things take time. So at the moment we're working on setting up the DayZ base, so we're getting all the things that we have to do. So like hackers and the kind of the updates to the Hive. So we're reinventing the Hive. We're going back and saying, right, we're not making it for 600 people now. We need to do it so it can deal with large amounts of people. And going with that, so we can redesign it from the base up and see what were the problems with the mod, what were those that were game breaking, and dealing with those issues first. There will be some new content with the release, but no, there's not going to be massive amounts. Things like content and such like that will be things that we'll tackle in the updates after release.
Like secondary. Okay. So I have a whole bunch of questions about rifle butting and stun guns and gun customization and all that. Will we see hordes? But I'm sure it's just going to be the same answer. If you guys are still working on the hard coding, then it's all secondary. But do you have any kind of like internal board of, okay, we're going to tackle hackers, then we're going to tackle this major issue, and then we're going to work on this? Is that in your guys' internal, how would you say, just in your future, I guess you'd say? Do you guys have that planned?
Kind of. Like, we've got a list of things that we want to have in with the release. Some of the major things really aren't as sexy as content. So, for example, like, we want to set up an efficient pipeline for pushing out updates. So, as some people will have known, with pushing out updates, it was an extremely stressful and period of us pushing the update out on the website and then waiting for 6 updater and DayZ Commander to pick it up and then servers to have installed it and things like that, and then for us to hotfix it as well. However, now with the pipeline we're working on, we can push an update out and it will be downloaded automatically, and servers will be updated automatically as well. So it'll be much easier for the user. Hackers is the big thing, because that's one of the huge problems with the mod. I wouldn't say the new content things are secondary. I'd just say at the moment they're less of a concern to us, because they're things that we can do quite easily, compared to the problems like hackers and things that we really need to spend time on. So the new content we're happy to kind of leave for the moment, although there will be some new stuff with the standalone.
So what kind of new stuff is there going to be with the standalone?
Let me have a look onto my list and see. Well, we're looking at doing a new new inventory system. So like with like Arma 2, some people kind of acknowledged that the inventory system was difficult to use, which meant people were dropping items and major problems. We want to make it simpler and more intuitive, so less of a military simulator and something that's easier for people to use and slightly more friendly. And Dean had such a good idea, he decided to wake me up at 3 o'clock in the morning to get me to come into the office with him. So yeah, the inventory is going to be a big win, and that's something that Dean's working on at the moment, as well as the data.
Cool. So you talk about hackers. As a server admin, I know what a pain in the ass it is to try to deal with these guys. So also, though, I want to mention Arma 2, since it's built, the mod was built on DayZ built on Arma 2's engine. There's kind of this huge learning curve for Arma 2 admins. If you're not a scripter, if you don't know how to code, and you want to try to run a server, you're kind of caught with your pants down. So is there going to be, since you guys are dealing with hackers, is there anything lined up for server admins that is a little bit more user-friendly, who maybe people like me who aren't really scripters and they don't really, write the code, they just, like for example, Minecraft or Counter-Strike, it was really easy to admin in those because there's all these tools. You can reset players, you can give them gear, you can delete players, if they've done damage to your map or whatever, you can just completely delete it. Is there anything that's going to be available for DayZ server admins to do that for, if and when hackers do get through? Are we going to have a little bit more versatility in controlling our server?
Well, first of all, I'd say that you're not going to need them. And that's a fairly bold statement.
That is a pretty bold statement, Matt. I mean, that's almost asking for it now. You're asking for people to hack you. No, I'm just kidding.
Let me justify it by saying, like, the things like the problem with Arma 2 was that people were able to script it because it was a fairly open thing. So we're going to stop people running anything apart from DayZ. We're going to stop them from modifying the files and totally lock it down at an engine level. So you won't be able to do it. Side effect of that, though, means that people won't be able to make mods as easy. In fact, it'll be exceptionally difficult to make a mod for it. And if you do get, nothing is hacker proof. Take for example World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft has some of the best people in the world working on the security, and still occasionally you get one person that will get through. And even then, all the admin can do is just boot them or ban them.
Yeah. Well, it's good to hear you guys are working on the on all the. I mean, because that is really essential. I know a lot of people actually started to get tired of the hackers, and that's why I started my community, is because I was sick of it. I mean, I was just to the point where I was going to rage quit the game because I was getting thunderdomed in the middle of an episode, and I almost felt like it was a personal thing, but then when I started to get all the members of the community come in, it was everybody. Every server, it seemed, had been compromised at one time, where they're just running all these crazy scripts. So it's good to hear that you guys are working on that stuff. I didn't get to hear the stuff I wanted to hear about the features, but I can understand why. This mod, I mean, games take years to develop, and I was looking forward to hearing about, can you talk about building at all? Is there anything lined up for building that you guys maybe started on?
As we've discussed, is the way we want to tackle building is underground. So the problem with building above ground is that you get more lag because there's more items within the world. So as we've seen, with some other games, is that it's not achievable to do a very large scale map because you have lots of objects in, and a 400-kilometer square map is kind of impossible to do, to have it populate it with objects. And people underestimate how difficult it is. So if we can't really do above ground building, as you noticed with tents and things, when you start placing lots of objects down, things start going a bit crazy. So if we go underground and instance it, so like World of Warcraft or Oblivion, where when you enter a dungeon, in either, it goes into a separate world space. So, doing it that way would be much, much easier, and means that we can have huge underground bases.
Will these be enterable by other players or a specific set of players? So, well, can I raid other instances or other people's camps?
That's Dean's idea. He'd like it so that other people can raid people's bases. But then there's also got to be some protection there, and he's still doing it, still kind of designing it. And it's a really, we were even talking about at some point, he mentioned that it would be quite cool if we can have a security panel, so you can write your own security code in-game to protect your base. which means that then you've got to have someone that's a really good hacker to be able to break your code to get into your base, which then goes back to the point of bringing real-world skills into game.
Yeah.
But that's not something that we're going to be doing with the standalone release. That's something that we want to aim for. Although I would like to point out as well, for us, it's not we don't want to overpromise and not deliver. We just want to be totally honest.
That's cool. I mean, you're being realistic. I mean, that's cool. I look forward to a lot of the features in DayZ Standalone. Hackers is very important, I think, to tackle that obviously first. Is there anything in the works as far as I know? I heard something about animals. Is there going to be pets? Have you guys been working on pets at all?
Yeah. So as some people saw at Gamescom, we had an early version of dogs. The dogs are really close. We're just having a problem with animating the jaw of them. So when they bark,
it's not just like a clap, basically.
Clap.
Well, I've seen the dog animations in Arma 2, and it's just basically like they have one animation that's open their mouth or close it, so their mouths are just like clapping. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, kind of. kind of. It's kind of a technical issue with the animation. Um, so we're having a few problems with that. But once we've resolved those, that's something that we're really close to being able to put in. So hopefully we can solve that before we release.
Cool.
If not, it'll be exceptionally shortly after.
I look forward to dogs. I look forward to all the stuff you're talking about. So, actually, that brings me to my next question. Are you guys done with the DayZ mod? Are we going to see updates for DayZ mod? Is it all going to go to standalone, or...?
No. We want to continue the mod because, people have bought Arma 2 for it. But, you've also got to acknowledge that we can't develop two things at once.
Yeah.
So we've been trying to cast a fine line between, working on standalone, working on the mod. So one of the steps that I'm working on at the moment is to bring in members of the community that have been doing work on their own private hives, so that we can continue, a reasonable tempo on updates for the mod, without compromising the work on standalone.
That's good to hear. So another question I have is, is there some kind of plan for when the game is developed for standalone as far as servers? Is it going to be the same where you have to apply for an instance and it has to be public, unlocked, or are you going to allow private servers for the DayZ standalone?
Possibly. That's one of the things that I've got to work out in the not too distant future. To start off with, what we're going to be doing is I've spoken with several server hosters, and we're going to try and. They're going to be hosting some free public servers, but obviously people are going to want to get their own. So, as to how we do that, we've not come up with a final decision yet. But yeah, we've not finally decided, but it will be possible to host your own server.
Cool. And do we ever see? We're talking super super distant future, like 2-3 years. Who knows how long? Will DayZ ever become an MMO like you mentioned World of Warcraft? Do you ever see it at that level of success and subscribership?
Wow. I'm just thinking, like, World of Warcraft has 90 million players on it, I think. Subscribers, which makes them about £9 million a month. If I remember working this out, because I can remember thinking, I wonder how much money they make, but if we got to that point, that would be wow. That's when I can sit on a beach and smoke a cigar and be like,
"You're too young to be sitting on a beach smoking cigars, Matt." But do you see it at that MMO level of success? Because I see it there. I mean, it wasn't a surprise. Like, I feel like DayZ was the itch that all gamers had been wanting to scratch, not only for zombies, but I mean, maybe I honestly feel like the Arma 2 engine was built, or the reality engine was built for this type of zombie game. It's just so realistic, and so there's something that really connects when you play DayZ that's not like any other game. And maybe it's because it's built on a war simulator. It's meant to feel clunky. It's meant to feel realistic. So that amplifies the subtleties of the game that make it just so terrifying. Actually, that reminds me, I remember in reading about on the Tumblr, you guys were talking about you're coming to the moral issue of children zombies. Have you guys come to a decision? Are you going to add children to DayZ?
We've not come to a decision yet. No, simply we've not. And it's as to whether we'd be able to do it at the moment. We're looking into like age ratings and whether we need to get DayZ rated age-wise, because as you noticed, Minecraft isn't age-rated, and it's whether we need to be through the distribution method we want to. Going back to your first point though about the Arma 2 engine and real virtuality as an engine, people totally underestimate it. They just totally don't get it when they say Arma 2 engine's rubbish. It's amazing, like how versatile it is. You've got Arma 2, and then you've got Take on Helicopters, and and if I'd say the biggest success of the mod was that it survived under the amount of pressure and the amount of people that were on it. So at times we had 90,000 people connected at once to Hive, and it survived that. Some games don't survive that. For example, look at Diablo 3 when that keeled over and died.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean that's the thing with I totally agree. The thing with Arma 2 is it was such an underdog for me. Like, it just grew on me after playing DayZ and then realizing why it's so powerful as far as the map editing, the mission files, the scripting. I mean, you can create your own campaign and like just the possibilities are limitless when it comes to Arma 2, and I don't think there's any other engine out there that has that available for the players. And I think as DayZ brings its success in, more people, I'm getting Arma 3. Arma 3 is sold just because I've been playing Arma 2, and it's incredible how powerful the engine is. And hopefully more will get to that point, because personally, I feel, in my opinion, that games like Arma are going to change how war games are played. Games like Battlefield, COD, Call of Duty, arena-style shooters, digital pixel shooting games that are designed to be arcadey, they're never going to change. They're always going to have the same feel to them. But games like Arma, eventually when virtual reality, if it ever comes out, those games are going to port right over because they already feel real, to some aspect. So it's a great game. Arma 2 is a great game. The engine's amazing. DayZ, I think, is a perfect match for it. And is there anything in the future, in the not so distant future, Matt, like say within November, are we going to see any updates for the DayZ mod?
Well, we've not got any timetabled at the moment. We are looking at. I sent messages to the guys on the community guys that we've been speaking to start setting up a repository of suggested changes that we can do server side. It's kind of an if and when. Hopefully we can get something together, an update out fairly soon. But it all depends on how quickly everything moves.
Cool. Yeah. Well, take your time, man. You know what? Actually, I think I speak for. I'm going to go ahead and take this. You made a bold statement. I'm going to make a bold statement. I speak for everybody when I say, just forget the mod. Forget the mod. Give us standalone, please. Forget work on the mod. You can just hand it off to somebody else, and we want to see standalone because I'm excited. I'm super excited for it. I don't care if it's going to be Chernarus Plus. You guys could mail me a can of mayonnaise and say this is DayZ, and I'm gonna be excited to open it just because the game is so awesome. And that is all the time I have right now. Matt, thank you. It's been a pleasure interviewing you. I didn't get some of the detailed information I wanted, but I did get a lot of important facts that the hacking is going to stop, which is good to hear.
It's been a pleasure. Hope if you wanted to do another interview close to release, and hopefully I can give you some more information.
Yeah, I'll do a follow-up, and maybe I can get some more of this. I was looking forward to finding about gun customization and all this cool stuff that everyone in the community came up with. Calorie system I have written down here, but I didn't even ask any of it because I figured, if you guys are focusing on the core of the game, which is totally understandable, I just, I wanted to get some of these questions for my subs and community. But thank you, Matt. I'm going to end the video here. You can check out DayZ, the mod for Arma 2 at dayzmod.com. I'll also post a link to the standalone Tumblr where you can see updates of when the game is going to be released, and you can get all the detailed information that I couldn't get today. It's been a pleasure, Matt, and everyone who's been watching, I love you all.